Welcome to the Tokenized Economy. Today, we're diving into governance and policy controls, what I like to call the other half of crypto security. We spend so much time talking about the incredible tech that protects digital assets, but what about the human element? Well, that's exactly what we're digging into today. So let me ask you this. If your private keys are totally secure, locked down with the best tech out there, are your assets truly safe? You might think yes, but the answer is actually no. And we're about to find out exactly why.
All right, so let's start by talking about the limits of technology. Because look, things like awesome cryptography are absolutely crucial, right? But they don't solve the entire security puzzle, not by a long shot, especially when you're talking about big institutions.
So, just as a quick refresher, let's talk about the heavy hitters in key security. You've got your hardware security modules, or HSMs. Think of these as literal physical vaults for your keys. Then there's multi-party computation, or MPC, which is super cool. It splits a key into pieces so no single person ever has the whole thing. And of course, multi-sig wallets, which need multiple people to approve a transaction. All of these are fantastic at one specific job: stopping an unauthorized person from getting a hold of your key. And here's the absolute heart of the issue. Protecting a key from being stolen is a totally different problem than making sure the key is used correctly. Just think about it for a second. What if an authorized person gets tricked or is forced to do something or, just makes a simple human error? That perfectly secure key can still be used to drain an entire account. Whoops. And this is where you can really see the fundamental conflict. From the blockchain's perspective, it's super simple. If a transaction has a valid signature, it's a done deal, final, irreversible. But from an institution's point of view, that valid signature is just the beginning. It's not enough. They need to know, does this transaction actually follow all our business rules and our internal policies? And that right there brings us to the other half of the security equation: governance controls. This is the layer of, human logic and business processes that sits on top of all that powerful tech. So what exactly is a governance framework? The easiest way to think about it is like a rule book. It's the set of policies and procedures that everyone in an organization agrees to. And the most important word on this slide is before. All these checks and balances, they have to happen before a private key is ever used to sign anything. Now, this isn't just some dusty binder sitting on a shelf, okay? We're not talking about a paper-based checklist. Modern custody platforms enforce this rulebook automatically. They use something called a policy engine, and you can just think of that as your digital compliance officer, one that's on duty 24/7, never takes a coffee break, and makes absolutely sure every single transaction plays by the rules. Okay, to make this crystal clear, let's actually follow a transaction on its journey. We can see exactly how the tech and the governance really work together hand in hand in a real-world institutional system.
All right, check this out. It starts at step 1. A team member proposes a transaction. Instantly, at step 2, that policy engine we just talked about kicks in. It automatically checks it against all the rules. Is the amount too high? Is the address on our approved list? If everything looks good, it moves to step 3. It gets kicked over to actual human beings, maybe from the risk or compliance teams for approval. And only after all those checks are passed and all the people have given their consent, do we finally get to step 4, where the secure hardware, the HSM or MPC, actually signs the transaction.
So we've seen the journey, right? But what kind of rules can this policy engine actually enforce? Let's dig into some of the most common and most powerful controls you can put in place. Well, for starters, you can set simple things like transaction limits or create whitelists of approved addresses. You can also set it up to require more eyeballs, more approvers for larger transactions. And this one is so important. It enforces what's called segregation of duties. It's a fancy term for a simple idea. The person who proposes the transaction can also be the one who approves it. It's a classic, super effective anti-fraud control. Okay, so let's pull all of this together now and look at the complete picture. Because real, true security, it's not about choosing technology or governance. It's about weaving them together, integrating them seamlessly into one single, really robust system. You can really see the two different jobs here. The technology, your HSMs, your MPC, that's the vault. It's the ultimate gatekeeper protecting the key itself. But the governance framework, that's the rulebook, the checklist. It makes sure that even an authorized person can only use that key for legitimate pre-approved purposes. So if there's one thing you take away from this, it's this formula right here. When you combine the cryptographic security of the technology with the logical, human-centric security of governance, that's when you get real institutional-grade custody. One without the other just leaves a massive critical vulnerability, but together, they create a seriously powerful and resilient system. So that all sounds great, but what happens when things still go wrong? Because let's be real, sometimes they do. Well, in our next explainer, we're going to explore exactly that, how institutions design recovery and resilience right into their custody systems to prepare for any kind of failure, compromise, or operational headache. So the next time you hear someone talking about crypto security, I want you to remember it's not just about unbreakable code. It's just as much about having smart rules. Hey, make sure you subscribe for more explainers just like this one. And drop a comment below. I'd love to know, what do you think is the biggest non-technical risk in crypto today? Thanks for watching.